Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Health Ministry moves to fill gaps in the sector. Jamaicans urged to be vigilant in light of motor vehicle scam. And later in sports, reggae boys ready for Grenadian test in Nations League. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. The Health Ministry says the announced increase in the complement of doctors in the health system will help to meet the demand for the services. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa Mackenzie was speaking on Beyond the Headlines on Wednesday. Raquel Porter reports.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton on Tuesday announced the creation of new posts in the sector. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa Mackenzie says the increase will result in more problems being resolved and improve the quality and comprehensive care offered to the public.
We are looking at the fact that the doctors need to spend more time with the client because there is a health promotion and prevention agenda that we think that needs more time with the patient in order to let them be aware of wellness and not just that they come in because they're ill.
Dr. Bisesa Mackenzie says it is important that the health sector responds to the needs of the nation.
We're also increasing the specialist services in the Type B hospitals to add some of the subspecialist areas to cater to the change in epidemiology where we're seeing more and more complications of non-communicable diseases. So services like cardiology, which most of our deaths are resulting from cardiovascular illnesses, we're trying to cater for that in more of our hospitals. So it is an expansion of service and an attempt to try to ensure that we're providing the services that the population needs.
In the meantime, President of the Jamaican Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Minda Fitz-Henley, says discussions are ongoing to determine the effectiveness of the proposed 40-hour work week for doctors. That announcement was made by Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton in Parliament this week.
Well, the structure of it seems to be something that we are going through, and we have had multiple discussions with CMO along with the rest of the Ministry of Health team. We are just clarifying some things in terms of the rate that would be paid. We received something a few hours ago, and so we are discussing it with our trustees and the other members of the team just to ensure that everything seems to be appropriate. But that is something that we have had ongoing discussion on. So what it would be is that we would now be eligible to work for any 5 days within the 7 days, and it does not have to be specifically Monday to Friday in that sort of consequence, in that sequential order.
Raquel Porter, TVJ News.
There's an urgent appeal for Jamaicans to be vigilant at this time when purchasing vehicles. This is after the identity of Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Wayne Robertson, was being used in a motor vehicle scam recently. Police have since arrested one man. The details in this report. The past few months have been a nightmare for Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Wayne Robertson. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica Thursday, Mr. Robertson says he's been getting several telephone calls about motor vehicles being sold under his name.
The person or persons, I gather it's not just one, will tell people that he is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and that he's selling vehicles. So he would send WhatsApp messages with a list encompassing the various vehicles, and the prices will shock you. Maybe that's why persons quickly made deposits. I'll just give you one example. A 2020 X6 for $4 million on the list. That doesn't make sense, does it?
Mr. Robertson says he then started to take a vested interest in the matter.
So I recall getting a message on LinkedIn from a former student of my great alma mater, whose father is a businessman. Won't call any names, obviously. He was fleeced $10 million. Owns motor vehicles, owns a car firm, motor car firm. There was another person who was fleeced $4 million But that person met the person. And I won't go any further than that.
The Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is also taking the matter seriously.
When I saved one of the numbers and I checked the WhatsApp status, it shocked me. I must tell you, I'm happy that I was seated. So they have a Jamaican flag, Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, transforming from a constitutional monarchy to a republic. And my name and position. So they have gone as far as to even affix logos and, of course, the ministry's tagline onto their WhatsApp statuses.
Persons are being urged to be extremely careful when making these purchases. The public can also call the Major Organized Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, MOCA, at 888-662-2847, 876-906-5848, or 119. Another appeal for motorcyclists to wear the appropriate gear when they're driving on the roadways. This following the death of two bikers on Wednesday in St. Catherine.
My God, don't I Google it? Oh my God, it's real.
That's the mother of Johnny Carnegie, one of two bikers who died in a motorcycle crash Wednesday morning in Portmore, St. Catherine. Reports are that about 8 a.m., Carnegie and Kieran Stewart were aboard separate motorcycles heading towards Newland when a collision occurred with a Nissan motorcar heading in the opposite direction. Both motorcyclists and a female pillion were thrown from the motorcycles and received multiple injuries. It's understood that the female pillion who was driving with Mr. Stewart is admitted in hospital in serious but stable condition. Their families have been left in distress. The relatives of both men were home when they got news of the crash. Marcia Reeves, the mother of Johnny Carnegie, told our news team that when she heard, she rushed to the hospital in hopes of seeing her son alive.
When I go, I throw off the sheet off him. When I throw the sheet off him, I realize the whole hand face has a mash up.
So when you go there, him did cough up?
Yes.
I'm saying they dead already?
Yes.
Okay.
Him dead.
Yeah, okay.
So when I go, I see three of them lie down in the passage dead. And him cover up him. They never cover up him foot, but then cover up him face. And when we move him something along, him face mash up and him foot. The foot, if it's set straight, turn round.
As for Mr. Stewart's grandmother, Vandora Jump, she has been left in shock. She says her grandson left home just a few minutes earlier to take his girlfriend to work.
And I didn't get to see him to say, "Oh, you do. Give him water for drink. For rub him face, him lie down a road dead. Nothing. And I get to do to him. His mother is overseas. She can't come here. It's not somebody where, like when I drive with him girlfriend, ride with him, him don't ride fast and take him time and ride. And we don't know what happened this morning. Make him not put on him helmet.
Miss Reeves says she's cut up over the death of her son. In the meantime, MP for East Central St. Catherine, Orlando Terrelong, is appealing to motorcyclists to wear the appropriate gears when they are driving on the roadways. Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The Clarendon Municipal, and it's time for a break. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Renewed calls this afternoon for Jamaicans to refrain from carrying out vigilante justice, especially in instances involving people with mental health issues. State Minister in the National Security Ministry, Juliet Cuthbert-Flynn, says community members should not take matters into their own hands. The call comes following a number of incidents where mentally challenged people carry out attacks, then suffer in the hands of the community.
Jungle justice perpetuates a cycle of suffering and injustice, both for individuals with mental illness and society. So let's take a moment to understand the gravity of this issue. Stigmatization. Jungle justice exacerbates the stigma surrounding mental illness.
Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn believes that there should be stricter laws for people who carry out acts of violence against mentally ill individuals and children. She was speaking at a mental health workshop in St. James on Tuesday. It's now time for the Business Minute.
Jamaica is getting a boost in climate resilience financing. On Wednesday, it was announced that the government will collaborate with the Inter-American Development Bank, Green Climate Fund, United Kingdom, and the European Investment Bank. This is to provide funding to enhance mitigation and adaptation efforts. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says these kinds of climate-smart investments are critical as the country balances other development priorities. Further afield, Microsoft says it will contest the U.S. tax authority's request to pay an additional $28.9 billion in back taxes for the years 2004 to 2013. The Internal Revenue Service has been auditing how the firm allocates profits among countries and jurisdictions. But Microsoft said the issues raised by the IRS are relevant to the past, but not to its current practices. There have long been concerns that the biggest corporations do not pay enough tax in developed nations. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Kelisha Williams.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
Says deadly attacks on Israel at the weekend that killed 1,200 people. And more than 600 people, mostly children, have died of diphtheria in Nigeria since the current outbreak began in December 2022. With 14,000 suspected cases, this outbreak is far worse than the last one in 2011 when 98 cases were reported. Kano State in northern Nigeria is the epicenter, recording more than 500 deaths, but there has been a recent decline in active cases. Diphtheria.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.